I don't want to be premature, but it certainly looks like it's more likely than not that Joe Biden is going to be our next president. If that's the case, how will his foreign policy differ from that of Donald J. Trump's?
Yeah, well, the way I would put it is that Biden's domestic policy orientation is radically different from Trump's, but he's going to be so much more constrained, especially given the nature of the Senate, where his foreign policy, there's much fewer constraints on the president and on Biden, but he's actually more aligned with Trump in terms of policy. I mean, David, there are the equivalent of executive orders that Biden will be able to put into place in foreign policy for some changes in trajectory. So, for example, you know that we have just withdrawn formally from the Paris Climate Accord, the only country to do that in the world. Every other country in the world disagrees with us on it. It's quite unusual to get everyone aligned on something. The U.S. has managed to pull it off. But 77 days after Trump has pulled the U.S. out, Biden will put the country right back in. The Intermediate Nuclear Forces Agreement. We won't be leaving the World Health Organization, and we will sign up on COVAX and coordinating on vaccine distribution and manufacturing with the United Nations and the WHO and the Europeans, for example. So I do think that there will be some areas that are relatively easy layups in the first couple of months of a Biden administration that will make a lot of other leaders around the world feel a little bit more comfortable and feel like the U.S. policymaking is less volatile. But in broad sweeps of policymaking, like, for example, our orientation towards China or our willingness to be the global sheriff in the Middle East or in the Mediterranean, or our willingness to pursue and promote new global trade architecture, you're actually going to find that the orientation of a Biden administration and a Trump administration aren't all that different. My final point, remember that Obama, Biden, for 8 years, were being criticized as leading from behind, as being too unilateral, as not playing the kind of leadership role that a lot of allies had historically wanted to see from the United States. That wasn't just Trump. Trump perhaps accelerated it. He branded it in a much more direct way. But I think we need to understand that Biden's orientation is closer to Trump's than you'd think, and the constraints both on the United States and globally on the geopolitical system are a lot greater than they were during Obama-Biden first time around.
So, Ian, two quick specifics. Iran, does President Biden, if it happens, try to get us back into a deal with Iran? And the TPP, that Trans-Pacific Partnership, which President Trump moved away from, try to get back into it?
No. On TPP, no. Privately, Biden has discussed that with senior advisors. And even though Biden thinks it's a good idea, and by the way, David, so do I, there's no political capital, no support for it. I mean, among a Democratic Party where the progressives are already feeling like they're going to get nothing because they're not going to have cabinet appointments, you try to get Trans-Pacific Partnership done. Ain't happening. I was talking to the Japanese Prime Minister just a week ago, and this was one of the questions he had for me. And no, I mean, believe me, our allies would love it if the U.S. would come in. It's not going to happen. On the Iranian nuclear deal, the JCPOA, the Biden team would really like to get the Americans back into it. But the question is, would the Iranians accept that? Not clear to me for two reasons. One is that when we did that deal, we unfroze a lot of Iranian assets. Well, that offer is already, it's gone. That horse has left the stable. So we don't have as much leverage to get in. Also, the Iranian elections are coming up in 2021. I don't think the supreme leader is going to want to give a win to the moderates, to the Iranian president in the run-up. So I think it'll be some time and will require some fairly onerous negotiations before we might be able to get back into a new Iranian deal that will look a little different than the old one.
Ian, those of us in the United States are preoccupied, I think it's fair to say, with the election this week. There was another story that was not related to the election that was actually in its own way a very big one. That was the Ant Financial IPO that didn't happen. We have Jack Ma there who were trying to take out Ant Financial. They were on track for a very, very large IPO. And at, I think, the 11th hour, Beijing said, no, not going to happen. We're going to suspend that. I couldn't figure it out, but then I read about a speech that Jack Ma had given in late October, very critical of the way that Beijing was regulating their financial markets. What is going on there?
Yeah, Jack Ma has upset the chief Chinese regulators and those running economic policy in China, including Wang Qishan, personally. And this is not the first time he's been in the doghouse in China. You remember that he was forced to basically step down from his role in Alibaba and said that he was going to focus on educational issues. And that was also because his wings needed to be clipped from the Communist Party's perspective. So in part, it's because you have this very charismatic, very powerful Chinese entrepreneur in a state capitalist authoritarian system that has no interest in that. But it's also because Ant Financial is the most important fintech company in the world. It's massive in terms of its power and consolidation. And the Chinese government understands that that is strategic to the future of China, especially in an environment where the Americans are going guns blazing against companies like Huawei. I mean, Ant Financial really matters for data. And if we have a technology Cold War, the Americans have the potential to fight that organization. So the Chinese want to make sure that that is doing what the government wants it to do. I think you're right, David. If it wasn't for the U.S. election this week, the decision to basically forestall what would have been the largest IPO in world history is the most important geopolitical issue of the week.
But does it also raise a fundamental issue for the Chinese government? Maybe it's always been there, but can it have it both ways? Can it have the sort of command and control that it appears to want over its economy and still grow as robustly as it wants, particularly in areas like tech?
Depends on how much you think labor matters. I mean, there's a big debate right now, David, about whether or not the future of artificial intelligence is going to be driven primarily by having the best entrepreneurs or by having vastly more data. China is the largest data market in the world by a large margin. I mean, first, because there's no privacy constraints. You think in the United States we don't have privacy. No. In China, you have no privacy. People don't use credit cards. They don't use wallets. Everything is through their smartphone. And it's consolidated through a couple of super apps, of which Ant Financial and Alibaba control some of the most important. And so, if the future of deep learning and AI and figuring out your consumer behavior is all about just having that data and being able to sift through it, then the Chinese are going to win. Now, if it turns out the future of AI and technology innovation is mostly about having extraordinarily capable entrepreneurs and scientists, then the Americans can win. But it's not that the Chinese scientists and entrepreneurs are no good, but your point that in a command economy, that some of the best entrepreneurs that China could have and develop will leave China. Yeah, they will. And let's keep in mind that Biden, as president, one of the first things he's going to do will be to make the visa regime feel friendlier to the high-profile, high-talent workforce. Sorry, Canada. Sorry, France. Sorry, China. And that will be important to the United States. So if it's all about the scientists and the tech gurus, I feel pretty good about the United States.